Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Hello and welcome back to another exciting edition of Incredible Adventures in Marketing. My name is Liam Carter, and as always, we are joined by Phil Bretherton. Welcome, Phil.
How do?
This week, we've got an interesting one. We're going to be talking a little bit about scams. And I think it's an important topic because anybody who's selling digital out there is always going to come across the client that's a little bit wary about buying stuff that's online because there are scams out there.
There are
so
heaps.
let's talk about it, Phil.
Well, let's start off with how earlier today earlier this week we were asked to build a website for a pyramid scheme.
Yes. Well, in fact, we didn't quite realise that until a little bit of digging was done.
Yeah, a lot of digging actually.
Now, so tell us. So basically, let's just not go into too many details about the particular individual, but let's just say we were kind of forwarded on a really it was a cheap and nasty looking website, wasn't it, to start with?
It was extremely nasty,
and we couldn't quite work out what it was all about.
No.
And then Phil decided just to dig a little bit deeper. And what did you find?
Well, it took a while to find that it was a pyramid scheme actually, because they used like guerrilla marketing techniques to hide the fact that it was a pyramid scheme. So the first thing I did is I jumped onto YouTube, which is the second most used search engine, and looking for this particular company and this brand. And I came across lots of videos by people who were part of the scheme.
Mm-hmm.
And the titles of pretty much every video was this, whatever the name was, is this a scam? Is it fake?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you think it's some kind of journalistic report, and you're going to get told that it's a scam. But none of them were like that. They all started off with something along the lines of how they started off looking into it, and they were worried at the start, and they were suspicious. But it turns out that it's actually a fabulous thing. And all of the videos were kind of like that.
Isn't it funny with those kind of multi-level marketing things where there's a lot of, preachers out there trying to say how good it is?
Yeah.
I remember one time I was invited to this thing and it was like that. They had a webinar from some guy in California, and I guess this was in the early 2000s, or maybe mid 2000s. So, that kind of thing still had a little bit of,
was big
check this out,
Yeah.
So we went along to this event at this person's house, and, there's probably another 20 people in the room watching this kind of live stream on a projector. And by the end of it, we kind of worked out what we were dealing with. But it turned out that pretty much everyone in the room was already involved in this whole setup.
Yeah.
But they were sat there to look like they were, also,
They were actors.
prospective, like myself and my business partner at the time. And so it was like they started looking at us and were like, wait a minute, we're the only ones here, aren't we? And that's
So
not a great feeling.
I can imagine. But it was interesting because they actually, like I said, they used marketing to hide the fact that they were a scam.
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't matter. There was so much noise. There was so many videos from different people who all started off, I looked into this and I thought it was fake, but it turns out it's actually really good and you should get onto it. There was so much of that that's why it took so long to find out, to get to the truth, to actually find the information, which, so find the website and then find, and actually the graph which they showed you of how it all works was actually in the shape of a pyramid. So it was quite interesting. It didn't take long after that to realise that it was a pyramid scheme.
Not even trying hard.
Yeah, so we said no to that client,
Yes,
obviously.
we walked on that one. You've got to be able to say no to the business sometimes as well, don't you?
Yeah, well, we've got our reputations to hold.
That's
the
right.
Small ones. And so that was that. And then another interesting thing happened last week, and that was Andy actually tried.
Our producer, Andy?
Yeah,
Hi, Andy.
he tried the suggestion of paying for likes from people in India, and he got 3,000 likes.
Hugely successful.
I know. I didn't think it was going to be that successful, but I saw that for like less than $50, he got 3,000 likes, and one of his posts also got over 10,000 likes.
Yeah, that's
as well.
amazing. I mean, that's something, isn't it? I think I actually I did the same thing myself and tested a few things out in targeting different areas, and definitely India gives you a lot of likes. But then I tried Japan, and they're really stingy with their likes. So it just depends on where you're targeting, I guess.
And so I looked into that, and I'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later. But it was interesting because not long after, somebody on one of the groups, the Facebook groups that I hang out on, said that their client had been recommended by another business to buy likes, and they were outraged because they thought it was just such a terrible idea, and I thought I'd play devil's advocate and challenge everyone who thought it's such a bad idea. So I said, actually, in some cases, it's a good idea. If you're just like a baker, for instance, and you've got no intention of using Facebook, but you want a presence on Facebook which says you're popular, well then it makes sense to just buy a handful of likes, and when somebody sees your brand, they'll see you've got so many likes, they'll instantly think that you're a popular business, and that's it. That's your credibility there. $50. It doesn't matter if they're legitimate or not legitimate. It's the same number. They just see a number next to the like.
That's right, indeed.
And that's what's important to some people. That's all that matters.
And I guess it depends on the type of business as well, because some businesses will need local customers, and others can take their customers from anywhere on the internet, can't
Absolutely.
they?
Yeah. I mean, you spoke about how having 3,000 likes really easily means that you can branch out into different areas.
Exactly right.
If you're selling podcasts, because it just doesn't matter who's listening.
Exactly.
It's just numbers. It's
a
just
listen
impressions.
is a listen. We don't mind where they're listening from,
and you get paid for every listener, essentially. So in your case, it makes sense to do something like that. But it was the people in this group were almost offended at the idea. A lot of them was say it's just wrong. It's morally wrong, and they couldn't get past that point. It was like, why is it wrong? Why shouldn't it be done? And it was just because morally it's wrong. Mm-hmm. And businesses isn't like, that's a bit quite naive as a business owner because Facebook really isn't like a moral platform. It's just a platform where you can actually do marketing, and if you can play the platform to suit your needs, well then there's nothing morally wrong about it. I don't think it is a scam to buy likes overseas if they're much cheaper. If really you're just trying to get those likes, if you're just trying to get something if you don't care about the quality of the likes, if you just care about the number, then I think it's a fine thing to do.
And that's a clear distinction, though, isn't it? It's whether you're trying to get the numbers or whether you're trying to get the quality, because the quality, you might not make many sales off those, easily gotten likes, but it might still do the trick,
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if it's just that credibility, that's all you're after, or just that number, then it makes sense to do it. And another thing as well is we're both entrepreneurial, and this creates an opportunity, this does, because a lot of businesses, what they're doing, they have an idea for a product or a service, and then they'll go out and try to market that product or service. But this is a different way of running a business. This is getting the audience first and then trying to find a product or a service you can use to sell to that audience. So people in India still buy things, and they buy cheap cars, for instance, and they buy other things. So there's no reason why Andy can't have a think about how we could use this audience, how we could actually sell to this audience. Maybe, something which is decidedly Western, so we could even run something which is like an online course, and it would have to be much less than it would have, much cheaper than a Western online course, but it could be an online course about teaching Indian people how to branch out into Western markets.
Exactly.
Because that's something that he knows, and it's something that could be sold, because that's something that's really, really in demand in India. They want to branch out. Man, I get emails all the time from Indian development teams who want to develop all my websites for me.
Well, and also, I guess, that's a very targeted approach, but then there's also the beauty of dynamic advertising that'll drop in, localized advertising from wherever you're listening or watching on YouTube, for example.
Yeah, go on.
Well, you might be watching a YouTube video and you'll have something, advertised that's specific to the town that you're living in.
Yeah.
And the same thing goes for podcasting as well. So you can have the targeted approach where the people that, targeting an audience internationally, but also, you don't need to do all the hard work sometimes with dynamic advertising.
Of course.
You see what I mean?
I get you. Yeah. So is that something that the Audio Boom take care of then?
Indeed, yes, we do
that's-
that. We can do that with our podcasting. So somebody might be listening to one of our Australian podcasts in India, for example, and they might get a local ad. So yeah.
Well, there you go. I mean, that's just more reason for for buying likes overseas and buying in markets that you wouldn't normally buy.
Especially for that kind of business.
And we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago about why it's so easy. Why it's so easy to buy those likes. And I said I didn't know. I had no clue. Was it something to do with culture? And then I started to look into it. And I think earlier this week, I spent about $50 on boosting a page or a post or an ad or something of mine. And only 250 people saw it. That's it. So Andy, he spent $50 and thousands of people saw it. I spent $50 and only 250 people saw it. And I'm pretty sure Andy just clicked the button boost and that was it. Didn't even think about it. Whereas I actually had a lot of strategy behind mine. I selected my audience. I'd done all of my audience insights. I created a nice ad, and only 250 people saw it. And part of the reason is because how Facebook works is it's a bidding platform. You bid for likes, and it's not something that's immediately obvious. Like for Google, when you go onto Google and you buy Google AdWords, it tells you how much a click will likely cost based upon what your competitors are bidding. And those metrics are part of Facebook. You can find them, but they're not as obvious. So when you pay $50 to boost a page or something, it's not immediately obvious that the market that you're boosting in is an extremely competitive market. So the web design and web development and marketing, they're all exceptionally competitive industries. There's so many people that are doing that now. And also where you boost might be a really competitive area. So for instance, if you're boosting in California, for instance, that might be a competitive environment because there's lots of people that are running ads. So the general rule of thumb is the more people are running ads in your niche and in your area, the higher it's going to cost, the more it's going to cost for a click or an impression or anything. So somebody else. So this is why you see people who start up Facebook pages and they have some kind of unusual niche, maybe selling handcrafted teddy bears or something like that, and they just get likes all the time because their niche is just empty from competitors.
Nice photos help as well.
Yeah, but having no competitors in your niche is a really easy way of getting more bang for your buck. And so in India, I would imagine there's just not as many people running Facebook ads as there are here in the Western environment. And so that's how $50 goes much further over there. So maybe there is something to do with the culture there, but also I think this plays a big role in that. So, but if you're running something that's highly competitive, the same $50 ain't going to get you anything. And in my case, it only got me 250 impressions, which is terrible. So that's just something to consider when running Facebook ads. So, I mean, we said we were going to talk about scams.
Yeah. You got any good ones?
This was a scam that we fell prey to, me and my girlfriend, when we went to Phuket.
Right.
And it was, I picked it up because I do marketing, but it was an interesting scam. And it was only when I went back to the hotel room and looked up a little bit more about it that we discovered how scammy it was. And it's it's on the same kind of levels as everybody in the room is an actor.
Sure.
Kind of scam. And I bet everybody's come across it, but it's still an interesting scam. And you get approached in the street by people selling scratchies or giving them away even.
It's like the scratchy gambling type ticket things. Yeah?
That's right.
Yep.
And of course, if there's two of you, they'll give you two scratches, one of which will be pointless rubbish, but one of which will be a guaranteed iPhone prize. And of course, in order to claim your prize, they first have to take you to the hotel foyer where they have the prizes.
Right. And why wouldn't you go? You're getting a free iPhone.
A free iPhone.
Yeah.
I mean, good. You're on holiday. You're in a happy mood already, and day one you've won a free iPhone.
This is going to be a great holiday.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So you go to the hotel with them. Oh, you're supposed to, but I didn't because I knew there was something fishy. But the idea is you go to the hotel foyer, and they tell you that all the iPhones have gone. Sorry.
Really?
Yeah.
What a shocker.
However, they've got a better offer now, and that is that you can buy a timeshare in their villa, and
Right.
also in any other hotel which they own, and apparently they own loads, so they'll have hotels in Germany and France and Spain, everywhere.
Sure.
You know, not just in Phuket. And you can now, because you didn't get your iPhone, you can get an extra special, fantastic deal.
What a deal. At first I thought I was in telecommunications, now I'm in real estate.
Yeah,
This is good stuff.
And so, of course, this involves you spending money. But so you can spend anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 on a permanent timeshare. So this is not per year. This is just one time fee. And of course, what happens is they actually take you through the process and they talk you through the process. And this whole process takes over hours. It takes hours and hours. And the whole idea is, with this scam, is to wear you down until you just say, fine, I'll just sign. And eventually, when you do sign, of course, you never get anything for your money. They just take all of your money and leave. And that's it. And you never find out.
And ruin your holiday.
Well, you don't ever find out until you get back home, do you? Because you're waiting for that email from them, to confirm everything, and you don't ever get that email. And those people have moved on since then. So that's quite a big scammy marketing strategy.
The old bait and switch to try and get people's details.
Have you not been subjected to that?
Well, I mean, on many, of course, online you'll find a lot of these kind of things where they're trying to get all your details. Just, you've almost got this really great free thing, and just add your credit card details here, and we'll just to confirm your identification. And of course, that's probably not a good idea to do.
No,
especially I'm never really a huge fan of giving away my credit card details unless I've actually face to face met somebody, or it's a PayPal scenario or whatever.
Yeah. But even then, with PayPal, they're getting crafty now. I mean, you can get an email which looks like it's from PayPal, and it'll be something along the lines of so and so has deposited $500 into your PayPal account, and you'll go click on the button part of the email to go and have a look at it, and it'll take you to some website which looks identical to PayPal, but it'll just have a slightly different URL.
Yes.
You fill in your name and password, and of course, you've just given them the name and password to your own PayPal account, which they then log in and...
Before you realise, always check the URL, people.
Yeah, I mean, you can hover over the links and it'll tell you whether or not it's from PayPal, but it's a crafty one, and they're getting better as well at that. I mean... And
that's important for us to know all of these things, because, again, if you are trying to sell digital products to your clients, they might be a little bit wary, and these are the things you need to know about so that you can kind of... it's just
got
about
to arm yourself. That's for sure.
Exactly right. Yeah,
and so back to the original scammy marketing scheme, which was the pyramid scheme.
Yes.
One of the ways you can use their strategy is
here we go.
We're using the scam strategy a bit for ethical reasons. Okay. So
using your powers for good, not evil.
Yeah, I mean, one of the ways you can do that is to create a lot of noise about your brand, so that if you do get any negative comments, if you do get attacked by anybody, with a terrible review or something like that, you can do a similar thing. You can create a lot of good press, a lot of a good comments, a lot of good reviews, and you can just, because you can't really it's very difficult to get rid of these things, this negativity and these attacks, but you can do what they do and create a lot of marketing material and just flood the channels, the YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Google, just flood them all with as much marketing as you can to kind of dilute that.
Sure.
And that's a strategy you can use yourself, actually, for your own marketing. Other online scams, and these didn't used to be scams, which is quite interesting, but they call them black hat SEO techniques now. Have you heard of these?
Yes.
Black hat? I mean, everyone's heard of black hat and white hat, but they're not really sure what they are. Well, and this is quite interesting, actually, because in the olden days, before Facebook, what would happen is if you found some content which you liked, you would go and share that content on your own blog. And that's how Google PageRank works, because as far as Google PageRank is concerned, is the more links from somebody's website to your website, the higher score you'll get, the higher your PageRank will be. And the higher your PageRank, the more you'll you beat competitors. It improves your search engine optimization. And so the more links that come into your website, the more votes is what they're called for. And of course, they came up with this idea. Google came up with this idea before Facebook existed. So it's a broken system now, because nowadays, if you like a page, you just put it on your Facebook. You just share it on your Facebook, and you don't get that link, because nothing from Facebook doesn't share links like regular pages. So you don't get that link juice. And so PageRank now is quite a dated feature, and they really should fix that. But so what a lot of businesses do now is they use black hat techniques. So they'll try to create links on forums and any page they can, even link farms.
Just dropping their domain name wherever they can on some kind of page or a...
Well, it's a little bit more nefarious than that, to be honest. I mean, sometimes what they'll do is they'll have websites which just have, or they'll have thousands of websites. That's how bad it is. They'll have thousands of websites, and each website will have just a list of links, and they just add that link. So it looks like you're getting thousands of links to your website. Now, the problem with that is Google went onto that. They found out about that strategy. And so any link now which is rubbish, poor, from a link farm, they actually will penalise you now.
A link farm.
Yeah, a link farm. Yeah,
there you go. Term for the episode.
they'll penalise you, and so you'll actually lose scores from your PageRank. And so what we do now is we do white hat SEO linking, and that is in basically what Google suggests you do, and they suggest that you don't even try to create links, but rather links to your website should be created organically, which I think is a bit naive, because if you want more links, what you can do is sit and wait and hope people...
Isn't that what a blog is?
Well, you can write content and hope people link to it, but this is something else I discovered earlier last week, and that was like less than 5% of all blog content makes it to the first page of Google within a year. And that's long tail, really good quality blog content, not rubbish stuff. This is so really good lead authorship content.
So do you think Google's now punishing blogs?
Well, we're now at a point where Google doesn't know the difference between what is a black hat, a well-written black hat link, and a white hat link, because black hat linking has now got to the point where people will just write some content, and Google doesn't know if that content's any good or not. They only know how long it is, and they'll take that link and they'll link to your website, and they can't tell the difference between that and somebody who's written a legitimate 500-word blog post and has a legitimate link to your website. So Google can't tell the difference between those right now, and until they improve their AI, they're not going to be able to. So that's the point we're at now. So even though it's a scam technique, black hats still exist, and it's quite worrying actually, because it means that we're now at a stage where we have to write articles which are thousands of words long for Google to even consider that article to be of good quality. And you still have to hope that someone's going to link to it, and they will link to it from outside of a social network, from outside of Facebook or outside of LinkedIn. And that kind of marketing only works for marketers, really. I mean, like going back to the baker, if you're a baker, you're not going to write 2,000-word blog post every week.
No way.
And hope that people link to it every week and build up your page rank that way. It doesn't work like that.
And photos, where do they sit in this kind of, lots of new and nice images, being pumped out into the internet? Does that help?
Well, that goes back to creating noise, really. If you can create enough noise, enough presence, then yeah. I mean, especially if you brand everything. I mean, this actually, it's quite interesting bringing up photos, because you took a photo of a hotel room and you didn't brand it.
That's right. We didn't watermark that, and that photograph went viral, to say the least. And but then you live and learn. If you don't,
it did definitely go viral. It wasn't, to say the least, it definitely went viral.
But you live and learn. Again, it'd be how could you ever predict something like that happening again? But if we had actually gone ahead and watermarked that, then maybe we would have. Maybe got some recognition out of it, but as it stands, it's lost to the internet. And once it goes, it's gone. You'll never get it back.
I know. It wasn't. I mean, it's probably history now, but it's a little bit like my first crack at a LinkedIn post, or blog post, and which got thousands of people looking at my website, reading my website. And then every consecutive post that I've written since then hasn't got anywhere near that amount of traffic. And there's a lot of luck involved in that kind of writing. So this is where I was saying how only 5% of these kind of really long tail authoritative articles make it to first page in Google. They're the lucky ones, really. It's so hard to predict. There's so many different permutations. It's impossible to predict whether or not your article will take off.
All you can do is just try and do absolutely everything
You just
right.
got to keep trying and hope and hope. I mean, everybody's still trying to find out a guaranteed way of going viral. But no one's figured that out yet, and I don't think anybody will.
No.
It just depends on how people respond at the time to
Exactly.
and how it snowballs.
It's a certain time and a place, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of luck involved. And when selling marketing, when actually as a marketer, when selling, it's hard to sell to clients based upon this, because a lot of marketing is just trial and error, and sometimes you get no results, sometimes you get great results, sometimes you get none. And it's hard to tell a client they've got a $2,000 bill because you spent 2 weeks working on some marketing strategy which hasn't worked. And you can sell them on the idea that, well, now you've learned that doesn't work, but it's still not something that a client ever wants to know. But marketing in itself is not a safe. It's not a safe game. It's not a safe field. And generally, the closer you play it safe as a marketer, the more your results will be kind of bland and meh. And when I was a couple of years ago, when I was doing marketing at Vision Zone, which we both worked at for a little bit, one of the ideas we had there was to literally draw the chalk outline of a dead body and put that on the sidewalk outside of the office,
right?
with those CSI evidence tags, kind of leading into the office. And that's what marketing's about. It's about being innovative. It's about being different. It's about doing something, off the cuff. It's about giving India a crack,
Exactly.
It's about all of that kind of stuff without. This is why it's Incredible Adventures, because it is our adventures. Neither of us claim to be absolute gun hero marketers. We're still learning.
Always learning.
Yeah, but I do know that marketing isn't about paying for something and getting a definite result. There's a lot of building. There's a lot of building your just awareness, building your image, your brand, and then every now and again doing a bit of hustle and a bit of a push. But you can't just go straight into the hustle. It doesn't work. You can't just immediately start trying, to sell something on Facebook, for instance, and hope that you're going to make any money. It doesn't work like that. You have to actually be a little bit scammy, I reckon.
Really?
Yeah. I think you have to be a bit scammy. When I'm doing emails, like I've got a new email campaign coming up soon, and I'm going to start off with a few scammy headlines just to get people to open them. You've got to be. You can't be too safe when it comes to email campaigns.
Free iPhone?
Maybe not. I mean, we'd get into trouble for that. But like every year, I do a launch, an end of financial year launch, and we always like half the price of the product or service that we're selling. And we always get people complaining because like the day before then they bought it full price. And so the idea is to come up with something which kind of mitigates that as much as possible. But in doing so, I'll actually be telling people to not buy the service or product. So the idea was I'll be marketing by telling people not to buy something.
Well, on that note, I just want to say a big thanks to our producer, Andy, as always. My name is Liam Carter, and thanks again for being with us, Phil. If you'd like to hear more podcasts on the Ozcast Network, you can go to the Ozcast Network Facebook page. You can also visit, where can people find you, Phil?
Just Google Incredible Co.
Very good. Thanks very much for listening, and we'll catch you next time. This has been Incredible Adventures in Marketing. Bye-bye.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to AuscastNetwork.com for details.